Yo, 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 what's good? Welcome everybody to Swish for Real. It's your host, Big Mike, and my co-host, my boy Boogie Bob. What's up, Bob? How you living, man? How you doing?
Yo, 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 Western Conference champion Mavericks.
D-Town in the building, D-Town in the building, man. What are you thinking about the Mavs, man? They've been trying to figure out Boston, man. That first game, game one, was kind of crazy, man. What are your thoughts on that game, man? I was in the edge of my seat in the third quarter when we got it down to 8 points, but it's just something about Boston's defense and offense, man. Do you think they are elite, whether it be defense or offense? Give me your thoughts and impressions on that defense.
I yes, uh, on both defense and offense. The according to the statistics this year, uh, they're number one in most attempted threes, number one in most made threes.
Dang.
Other than Dallas, the number one defense. I think Minnesota in the West had the number one defense.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they're playing the Rick Carlisle 5-out
Yep.
offense,
Yep.
which a lot of, if you notice, a lot of high schoolers use that, or they use the dribble handoff uh, offense. But that offense only works when the center can hit a 3-pointer.
Yeah.
And
They
so,
have that with
Al
Porzingis.
Horford in against the Pacers, Horford was doing pretty good at hitting a 3-pointer. And of course, I to me last night that was Boston's best game,
Mm-hmm.
and that was the Mavericks' worst game.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you come back from injury. This is true in any sport. When you've had a layoff, muscle memory kind of kicks in, and you do real good for a while. Then the next week or the second week or the next time you play, your muscles are sore and you're not as in shape. And you see that with bowling people. They come back the first week and they bowl lights out, and their average is too high, and they can't keep it, and they kind of go into a slump for a couple. So I'm hoping that's true with Porzingis, KP, as we
Yeah.
call him. Uh,
Because you mentioned earlier that with the 5 out offense, the center has to be able to shoot at least 3 pointers from where they're shooting what normal range, 24 feet, 20 feet. But Porzingis is the anomaly, man. I can see us holding down Horford, but like I said, Porzingis is the anomaly, and then they pulling out our bigs to get them out the paint so they can have a better chance of driving and scoring to the basket. So there's no defense there. So, do you think the zone that Dallas is running is going to slow down this offense that Boston is throwing at us?
uh, Not really. Zones are meant for teams that can't hit the outside shot, and you know, it's not just that Porzingis can hit a three. He was a good shooter when he was here.
Mm-hmm.
What what he added back to his game when he went to Washington was when they put a smaller player on him is don't try to dribble, just turn and shoot.
Mm-hmm.
And he tried to dribble. He tried to make post moves, and we're 7'3", 7'4". That ball's got a long way to travel. So he went. I read an article. He went back to his original coach and went back to Dirk had to learn this too. Is just catch the ball, turn, shoot. Uh, when a smaller guy's on you, they're just waiting for you to drill it. They want to poke that ball. So he he hit lights out coming in, and my favorite saying you've heard me say it: legs go, shot goes.
Yeah.
And so I I mean he's capable of scoring. He was a good shooter when he's here. I watched him in warm up even the year they traded for him, and he wasn't going to play because of the ACL.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, he's injury prone. So they were talking about ESPN. It's the same injury Kevin Durant had, and then Kevin Durant tried to play in the finals and tore his Achilles heel.
Mm-hmm. I
So,
remember that.
so I wouldn't be it. I would be surprised if he plays all 7 games. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, because he's battling a calf injury right now, as far as KP goes. But their defense has been like man on ball. Ball is not going to the hole. They're playing man to man all the way from half court to full court. They're just there. Their defense, I mean, I believe it's elite in its essence, but what
Well,
can Dallas
we
do to figure
talked
out the
last
defense?
week. We talked last week that what did the Boston Celtics need to do? And I said not double team
Yeah,
Luca,
yeah,
and I said pick him up early.
yeah.
So they just don't have one defender or two. That all 5 of their guys can pick up Luca. And the coach is like, okay, we don't care if he gets 73 or 83. The rest of the players are going to have to beat us.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, Derek White was known as a defensive player when he was at San Antonio. Drew Holiday helped Giannis win a championship.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Brown and Tatum, both good defenders. Jalen
Mm-hmm.
Brown showed up last night. He had a couple blocks on dunks.
Yeah, I was so oh my God. I was just like, oh my God, these guys are playing out
Yeah,
of their mind.
I mean, Josh Green had a breakaway and he was going up one-handed. And normally he could outrun everybody, but when you're 7'3", you can take long set. Like you got to dunk that with 2 hands. You can't
Mm.
just dunk that with one hand. But yeah, Boston's offense and defense are elite. Now, are they the best ever? Ooh, that's a different question because those Golden State teams were pretty good. The '86 Celtics were pretty good. The Showtime Lakers were pretty good. Uh, I don't know if you can put them in that class, but they might if they play the whole series that way. They're in the discussion.
What about the Chicago Bulls in '92?
Uh, the Bulls in '92, the '96 team was a little more offensive. Uh, all 6 of their championships were built on defense,
Mm-hmm.
and Michael and Scotty scored a lot. But you know, the center uh, wasn't until they got Kukoc that they were really an elite offensive team. You had spot up shooters. I mean, Steve Kerr was there. John Paxson was there. You had rebounders, Luke Longley, but they weren't. I wouldn't consider them an elite offense, but they were definitely an elite defense, and a lot of their points came from their defense.
I agree. So speaking of Boston in the context of Brown and Tatum, and even Porzingis, Brown won the Eastern Conference MVP trophy. So if you had to compare the two, as far as Brown and Tatum, which one do you think is a better player and why?
Brown all day long,
Why?
all day, every day, and on Sunday too. He shows up in the playoffs. Boston's been to the Eastern Conference Finals 6 of the last 8 years.
Mm,
And when they lost 2 years ago to Golden State, Jalen Brown, they used to talk about playoff Rondo.
hmm
His numbers were always better. Even Dirk was numbers were better in the playoffs. There's just some players they elevate their game during the playoffs. And Brown, he shows up in the playoffs. And when things get tough, you know, pretty boys and athletic people, when it gets tough or they get punched them out, they they may not cry, but they're just kind of like they're not used to that. Uh,
Yeah. So you think that's Tatum's predicament right now?
I call him Pretty Boy. He's just a bigger version of Kevin Booker without the tears.
Devin Booker?
Kevin Booker, yeah.
Kevin?
But I'll use this. There's great players, and then there's players that play great.
Mm,
It's a line from one of the Rocky movies. At end of one of the movies, Carl Withers
Mhm.
tells Rocky, he says, "I'm a great fighter, but you fight great." So Tatum is a great player, but Jalen Brown plays great.
That's nice. I like that analogy.
Uh, and then most talented, that's a different topic. Most people pick on Tatum because they think he's the most talented, but I'll take the guy that shows up when the going gets tough.
Gotcha. What about the impact Porzingis has? Like he's not played a full season with Boston, but since he's in the playoffs and he's been really showing up, what kind of impact do you think he's going to have going forward as far as the playoffs now, or the finals rather, and the future for Boston? Will he be a good intricate piece? Because I heard you say earlier that he's injury prone, but if he was able to stay injury free, what kind of impact will he have on the Boston Celtics?
Big man get hurt, and props to the Celtics for doing a video on Walton last night. That was very classy.
Yep.
Even though he only played 1 year, uh,
R.I.P.
and I actually had the privilege when they retired Larry Bird's jersey. They Celtics played the next day, and they played the 76ers. This is 1993 in a snowstorm, and I had center court tickets. And when I'm walking out, there's this really tall guy in front of me. And then when he turned around, I realized I was walking behind Bill Walton.
Oh wow.
And there's a long history of big man and feet problems.
Knee
Uh,
problems.
yeah, problems with their feet, some with the knees. Just Yao Ming had a short career.
Yeah,
Sam Bowie had a short career.
yeah,
Greg Oldman got drafted instead of Kevin Durant by the Trailblazers. Didn't even have a career.
yeah.
Uh, Kareem was one of the few. Bill Russell was one of the few. Wilt Chamberlain, one of the few really big men that didn't have major injuries. Once you start having injuries with knees or legs, and you're that tall, that's a even if you don't jump, that's a lot of weight and a lot of force coming down on those feet. So uh, I think KP already had his best game, but he does allow Boston to play a better version of the 5 out that
Hmm.
we're talking about earlier. Uh, I can't help but think Donnie Nelson was watching TV and thinking, where was that Porzingis when we traded for him that we gave up 2 first-round picks for?
Yeah, I've remember seeing something about him that he said he went back and evaluated all the stuff that he did wrong, and then he came back and had a renewed sense of urgency as far as being a better player and teammate. He said he wasn't a great teammate for Luca, which he kind of regrets, but he did reevaluate himself and made himself, as far as personality wise, a better person. And then he didn't go out to the clubs a lot like he used to, because he was one of those party guys. He loved partying. And I remember a video of him, I think it was in Russia or maybe Slovenia, where he got into a fight with some guy. You remember that video? He
Yeah,
was yeah. So he's changing his lifestyle for the betterment. He's now taking basketball serious, which he should have did that a long time ago. He would probably stay with the Mavericks, but it is what it is as it is now.
yeah, and like I said earlier, you hired his coach to help him get back, but he's matured. I mean,
Right.
sometimes you have to go through heartache to mature. And even though he's older age wise than Luca had been playing with adults since he was 13, 14 years old.
That is a fact.
So Luca was maturity wise a lot more mature than Porzingis, and I think he was expecting Porzingis to be more mature. Uh,
Hmm.
but you got to go through heartache sometimes to to get better. Uh, Boston gave up Marcus Smart, and Porzingis was in his last year of the contract, which they extended. They got a first-round draft pick attached to that from either Memphis or Washington, and then they flipped that first round pick to get Drew Holiday.
Yeah,
So
that
you
was a great
basically traded
pickup,
Marcus
man.
Smart for Porzingis and Holiday. I'm like, Danny Ainge isn't the GM anymore, but Brad Stevens made one heck of a. I mean, that's a double pickup. KP played the most games regular season this year than he has since he was a New York Knick before he got hurt, and he
Mm.
only played in 57 games.
And as a Nick, they named him the Unicorn.
Well, KD nicknamed him the Unicorn.
Yeah.
Uh, I just I I just don't see him doing that for 7 games. It just he it's kind of like Antoine Walker when he was a Maverick. You prayed that he missed his first 3-point shot because if he made his first one, he would take 9 or 10 others and just start heaving it. And Porzingis is gonna, he had what 18 points in 10 minutes. He's gonna start calling for the ball, and that could take Boston out of their offense, take Brown and Tatum out of their game if he starts getting, you know, uh, stingy and wanting the ball, calling for the ball.
But I think he's changed that type of mindset. I don't think he's going to play like that. I think he sees what kind of team he has around him. So their offensive minded team is very progressive when it comes to the 5 out. And like you said earlier, they shoot the astronomical amount of threes, which led the league in attempts and makes.
Yeah, but has he really changed, or is it just the coach got through to him?
Well, considering what we talked about earlier, I think he has made a change as far as maturity wise.
I Boston got a heck of a steal if that
Yeah.
Porzingis plays for the rest of the series.
So you think
Uh,
he's going to be a major impact though, as far as the finals go, and as far as future with Boston? Because he looks like he belongs there. If you really ask
well,
me.
he's had a month off. Last time he played was April 29th. So if they hold his minutes down to 20, I mean, you're not going to get in shape over 2 weeks.
Mm,
Even with training camp, I remember Dirk would take him about 3 weeks into a season playing at full speed before he really got his rhythm.
mm.
So it's not unusual to have rhythm your first game, but I don't expect that he'll have that in the second game. If he plays the whole series, uh, what he can give you that it, even when he was with the Mavericks, he's a good rim protector and he can rebound. But they get him moving laterally. Last night they didn't make him move east and west. It was north and south.
Well, he went right by Lively and with that amazing dunk he did.
Uh, but really, was it all that amazing? That is that's a drill we used to teach, which is you basically curl, dribble, and take 2 steps and go straight to the rim. I mean, once he had Lively leaning one side, all you got to do is reverse spin dribble, and then you're up in the air and dunking it. So, I mean, he didn't
Mm.
have to move laterally that much last night. If you go back and watch it, they talked about it in the post game that even Doris Burke was commenting that, and even Stephen A. Smith, that they didn't make him move this way and this way. It was all front and
Yeah,
back.
North and South. And shout out to Doris Burke. I heard that she was the first female commentator calling the finals. Is that correct?
Yes.
Wow. Shout out Doris Burke. Hey, switch for real to see you, man. Do your thing. Anyway, so I don't know if Porzingis will continue. Like you said, he may not, but his impact the last game, game one, was very much felt with 20 points. And like you said, he had what, 18 points in 10 minutes? It's just
In
something
10 minutes. Yeah, he only had
phenomenal.
2 points in the second half. Yeah, he came out with energy. Uh, there's some players they flourish when the spotlight's not on them or the expectations are low.
Hmm.
and I think he benefited from that. If the coach winds up moving him as a starter, then that that's a I mean, yeah, he started during the regular season, but that's a lot of pressure. You know, he didn't have he didn't really have to come in and do great, but the fact that he did uh, helped Boston.
Yeah,
So him as a sixth man for this series, uh, coach better not mess that up. I mean, that's kind of like Avery Johnson uh,
switching up.
bringing in Devin Harris, and it worked against the Spurs, but it didn't work too well against Miami.
Mm,
But Carlisle did the same thing between the conference finals and the finals. He brought in JJ after game two to start. So uh, if you notice, Jason Kidd had Lively on the floor every time KP was on the floor.
yeah. And I think what Lively did was he was overly aggressive against KP because you could see it. He was pushing KP. He was trying to get under KP's skin, but he grabbed too many fouls doing that.
He got a couple cheap fouls, but
Yeah.
I think he's probably stronger than KP.
Oh yeah. And he's a rookie.
And
We got to understand that because he's still got a lot of room to grow. I
yeah,
just hope that he plays more smarter game two when it comes to playing it up against KP.
I, I think Tyson Chandler would be in his ear. Yeah, I mean, Phil, as one of the former Cowboy coaches, he said, "Film don't lie." So
Mhm.
once he sees the film, he'll probably realize. But I like that he was moving his feet. Lively was moving his feet.
So I think the matchup will be like you said. Whenever time KP comes in the game, we get Lively. Now, when Horford comes in the game, you get Gafford. Is that what we're seeing now, or do we put Maxi on Horford?
Yeah. So I coached it a little bit before in the first round before Maxi got hurt. Uh, I think if you bring in Maxi with Lively at the same time, and you either keep PJ or DJ in, uh, then that gives you somebody that can always cover the 3-pointer for the tall guys and protect the paint.
So who would they pull out?
Well, you either Derrick Jones Jr. or PJ Washington, one of them, you alternate them at the other spot.
Mm,
But they
yeah,
Boston basically neutralized Gafford.
yeah,
Gafford wasn't a factor. I mean, you're talking
yes,
about two centers that have been averaging 20-10 and some games better. And last night they didn't even hit double digits in rebounds. I don't think they
yeah.
hit double digits in points either.
And Luke only had one assist, which was
Yeah.
mind-boggling. They took away the lob, and I heard that they were trying to take away the Dallas's 3-point and the lob, so they did that effectively.
I mean, you can for a little while. They also make adjustments. They they basically went back to old school mentality was one person can't beat us, so they more than welcome to let Luca drive whatever he wanted for a 2-pointer.
Hmm.
And once he got into paint, they packed the paint so that the outlet passes weren't there.
Yeah, and
And if you
Kyrie,
notice the way they packed the paint, it was kind of a triangle
yeah, I seen
so
that.
that the pass couldn't go out to either corner and it couldn't go back up to the top.
Yeah, and the Boston defense again, like we said earlier, is elite. Now Kyrie did not show up a little bit like I thought he
Not
would
at
have.
all.
He was not good. So that goes to bring to mind the question as far as playing in Boston, you think that arena, since he stepped on the logo, which is named Lucky, has that made a curse on Kyrie, or is it just he's in his own head?
Uh, I don't think it's necessarily a curse. I think it's more psychological and a mental hurdle.
Yeah.
But I'll give you this goes way, way back. Mavs drafted Kiki Vandeweghe and he didn't want to sign here. So the Mavs
Mm-hmm.
traded him to Denver.
Mm-hmm.
Every time his entire career. Every time Kiki Vandeweghe touched the ball, the Mavs fans vehemently booed him. So, I mean, there was an angst and a hate, and the Mavs fans don't usually show that. But the East Coast has different attitude, whether it's Boston, Philly, or New York, and they will get on you. And if they sense any kind of weakness, then they just ratchet it up. Uh, so I what I, he's only won one game when
Yeah.
he's come back. This is before he stomped on the Celtics. But one game, I think he's like 12, 1-12,
He's
as
1-11, I believe.
1-11.
No, you're
Uh,
right. 1 out of 12. You're right. You're correct. My bad.
so so he uh I think it's a mental hurdle. To me, what I saw that was different is he was so anxious to prove the crowd wrong. He was rushing his shot.
Yeah.
Uh, you can normally, once you watch a player long enough, you know their normal rhythm. And he just seemed to me like he was rushing his shot a little bit.
Yeah. And typically before a game, he pulls out his drum beat all the way around the court. And then after that, I don't know if this is in sequence, he burns sage, just trying to clear the air of I guess, negative energy. So I don't know if that had any effect or not. Well, apparently it didn't because he still had that bad game. I just wonder if him hearing the boos, all that negative energy going toward his way, weighed on him in some type of way.
I think he's definitely changed the narrative. I think he's turned that negative energy into positive energy. But just like adrenaline, if you have too much to start the game, you're going to be long till you settle in. Uh,
Yeah.
I'll give you one player who's been in the finals quite a bit, and they didn't used to show it, but Stephen Curry runs from the baseline to the center court and back like in a dead sprint. And I used to wonder, I'm like, well, what is he doing? He's already warmed up. You know, Dirk had his rhythm where he used to jump up and kind of bring his knees up when he'd jump up just to kind
Yeah.
of get. Uh, but Stephen Curry does that. I presume is to run off any adrenaline or any energy that is going to affect his game. Because when you got to sprint up court and back, and then you get in the game, you're going to be, so you're going to relax into that. You're not going to be like, yeah, way up here.
So you think Kyrie should adapt something similar to what Steph Curry did?
It's different. You have something. I mean, it's different for every player. I mean, if it's to have Luca go up and slap him in the face once or twice, wake up, buddy. You know,
Yeah.
even in coaching, what motivates one player doesn't necessarily motivate another. Uh,
Right.
Kyrie's good at self motivation, but he needs to figure out something because he definitely was not in rhythm at all last night.
So still speaking of curses, do you think that is a such thing in essence, or it's just a urban myth?
Uh, Everybody likes a good conspiracy theory.
So you think it's a conspiracy? I mean, I don't know, man. I think there's some type of like people say there's generational curses. I think when you start something and you take that with you as far as that feeling, could that be considered a curse?
In a religious sense, no, but Boston fans talked about the Babe Ruth curse for years after they traded him to New York.
Yeah.
Chicago is the Billy Goat curse. Uh, and they had a chance to win a World Series, but a fan reached over
I remember that. Is
to
that
catch the
Bartleman?
ball. It
Wasn't
would have
it?
been an out.
What's
Uh,
his name? Bartleman? Bartleman?
I
I
don't
can't
remember
remember
his
that
name.
guy.
I just remember
Yeah, I
his
might.
as a kid,
I
like a
can't
12-year-old kid.
because he had to go into hiding for a long time
Yeah.
because
So
people.
I mean, that's why I call it conspiracy. To me, a curse is like stuff you read in the Bible where there's famine for 7 years,
Mhm.
somebody's been smitten with leprosy you know, uh, or somebody that has a really horrific disease, that to me, that's a curse.
Gotcha.
Uh, Now, the Celtic leprechaun, the legend lives on. People are like, oh, Red Auerbach's up in heaven looking down and, he's smoking his cigar because the Celts won another game.
Mhm.
I'm like, please, if you're in heaven, you're not going to be looking down on earth. You're going to be praising the Lord. You're not going to be caring about what's down
Happening in our
here.
immortal lives,
But,
yeah.
the Celtic leprechaun, I'll use this word. It has its own lore,
Mhm.
Lore. So the Celtic lore, whether you believe in it or not, it gets into your mind. It may not be a curse, but it gets up here. If you get That's what Patrick Beverly made his whole career in, getting in somebody's head. So, did the Celtics fans last night get in Kyrie's head? Absolutely.
Yeah, because I think when they started saying F Kyrie, F Kyrie, I'm like, oh my God, they're actually saying that. I know they had to be demoralizing to Kyrie in some essence of the form.
Yeah, and he's a pretty religious guy. You know, uh, I think we've had the privilege of getting to know Kyrie, the person. We talked about that last week.
Yeah.
Uh, but the competitor in Kyrie will come out. I'm not worried about him.
Yeah, he's
You
gonna
know,
make it.
they're not going to say Luca sucks because Minnesota found out what that does.
Oh yeah. He's gonna make sure that you know he's not the one to play with. So as far as this championship, who do you think needs it more? You think Dallas needs it more? Who's going to benefit more from it, Boston or Dallas? Because I'm surely wishing Dallas will win it because that'll put them at 2 championships, and Boston is already what at 18, 17, 18?
17 tied with the Lakers.
Right. So if they win, Lakers will have something to cheer about. They'll have something to moan about. But if they lose, then they have something to cheer about.
Yeah, I mean, when they lost 2 years ago to Golden State, Lakers fans were crossing their fingers that hoping the Celtics didn't win. Uh, I I think it means more to the city of Dallas. It definitely means more for Luca. For Kyrie, I'll throw this analogy out. It's kind of like Shaq won one without Kobe before Kobe won one without Shaq.
Mm,
But then Kobe won two. But Shaq said, I got four, you got three, now SFF, STF. And Kobe won his fourth. And then when he won his fifth, he's like, Shaq who? So for Kyrie, and I just thought about this the other day, preparing for the broadcast. Kyrie, if Dallas wins, Kyrie can say he won without LeBron.
yeah. And that will put him in the superstar status way up there because he's already a superstar because he's a legend when it comes to how he plays the game, his handles, how he controls himself as far as his ability to finish in the paint, his 3-point shooting, how he embarrasses players off the dribble. He is a legend. So if he wins this title, it's only going to make him more of a legend.
Well, I saw something last night that I had seen a couple times earlier, but it hadn't really sunk in. He's got great handles in open court or 1-on-1,
Mhm.
but in traffic, when they're not necessarily double team, but when there's 3, 4 guys around him, his handles get a little loose.
Mm,
You saw him dribble off his feet.
yeah.
You saw his legs ahead of his arms. Uh, they weren't in sync. When he's going to the rim or when he's putting somebody on skates, he's in rhythm with his legs and his arms. But he had 2 or 3 turnovers last night, and when I thought about it, like they were all in traffic,
Yeah.
and so Yeah, he's known as the best handles, but I think you kind of have to uh, qualify that, and that's when he's in traffic, not so well. But we got to shout out the Wild Dog. Happy birthday to
To you,
you. Happy birthday
to
to you.
you,
Happy birthday, Wild
yeah,
Dog. Whoa, 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 whoa. Happy
woo,
birthday to
to
you.
you, and many more.
Hey, I don't know if y'all can hear him. He's about heavy rated.
Let's go.
What's up?
He's
Hey, what's
turning
going
really
on,
old. Let's go. Yeah. So
the man that keeps me young.
Nice.
Yes, so Big Mike's got a birthday coming up here in the same year as you, Wild Dog. So
Right.
we're just talking about who benefits more from winning the championship, Boston or Dallas. What are your feelings?
Man, it's Boston all the way. Now, if I get it right, this is their third appearance in 4 years, right?
Second, sixth appearance in 6 out of the last 8 conference finals, but only twice in the finals, 2022 and now.
Okay, I thought they had one more because anyway, but
They
it's
haven't won since Kevin Garnett and Jason Terry and Paul Pierce.
No, I'm just talking about Brown, Tatum, and this could be dynasty that they've been building, right? I'm just talking about since they drafted Brown. I thought they had been to the finals twice already, and it's their third trip. But like I said, I could be mistaken. But with that being said, honestly, I feel like it doesn't affect the organization or the Celtics, right? It looks good for the Celtics, right? But for the players, for these would-be great players, for these stars who really should be superstars, they need to win. They must win. They need to win for their personal legacies. And they must win because then they risk being broken up if they don't. It is a risk being broken up if they don't win. So the pressure
on that note, Wild Dog, if they are to be broken up, out of Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown, who would you think be leaving first?
From day one, Brown was drafted first. It's Brown's team. I don't know how it became Jason Tatum's team, but because of his personality, this and that. But it was Brown first. You build around Brown. And when Brown is the MVP, when Brown is the shine, when Brown is the leader, this season is what you see. Right? Best team in the regular season and dominant during the playoffs. When, I don't mean no offense, but I got to call it the way it is. When you're a ball hog and you want some ego and everything's got to go through you and not through White, it hasn't worked. Has it? No, they haven't won. They haven't won it all. Right?
Well, so the Warriors won 73 games and didn't win the championship. They didn't break that team up.
But they had already won. They had already established their legacy. When you can't get over the hump, you haven't been able to get over the hump at all. And they go in and get Drew Holiday and they go in and get KP and make all these moves. You can't say that the Boston Celtics haven't done everything they can do to produce a champion. And if they fall short again, not just falling short the first time, if they fall short again, it is a legitimate risk that somebody's going bye-bye. If somebody goes bye-bye, that's being broken up.
And your thoughts would be Jason Tatum would be the one that is severed from the team.
Yeah, you got it. Brown is the man. I don't care what no one says, this and that. When the Celtics are on point, it's Brown.
And I also said that in one of my shorts. I mentioned that. I said Brown is the guy that they need to be careful of because the guy can hoop regardless. He's a very smart guy. Didn't he go to Cornell, if I'm not mistaken? He went to an Ivy League school and he was like super smart, and the dude knows about 3 languages. So I can understand why they would keep him as the face of that franchise for the formidable future. And plus, he's the president of the Players Association, and he also negotiated his own contract. So the guy is not a dumb person at all. So I think he's humble in essence. He likes to really benefit others than himself. So he doesn't look at himself as a superstar, in my opinion. He's just playing the game. He's just having fun. He wants to win. But
Yes,
I
sir.
agree, Tatum is a different person. He's not the person that's going to be. I wouldn't say he's selfish, but he's kind of, in a sense, he is in a little bit. But I don't want to say he is.
He has to sacrifice and be Robin.
Yeah.
Now you can think yourself Batman and play like Batman, but in the big picture, you have to accept being Robin, and you have to even to the point of sacrifice to make Brown Batman. No, dog, you Batman for the sake of the team, for the sake of getting over the hump. You have to impose Batman on Brown, right? And acknowledge it and play and move accordingly. That Brown is Batman, and Tatum, you are Robin, and win some chips.
Well,
You know?
Wild Dog, I said this earlier. Film don't lie.
You know,
And Jalen Brown shows up. Playoff Brown is a different animal, and he
and
blocked a couple dunk attempts last night.
Mm-hmm.
And then the only other thing I wanted to add is, like, my son loves basketball. He's got a pretty good basketball IQ. He's coming along. He's an 8th grader, right? So, but even when I put it to him, I was like, son, when you watch your Celtics game, he loves Jason Tatum. I said, when you watch their games, focus on what Brown does when he doesn't have the ball. Look for things that don't show up in the stat sheet, and then let's talk about it. And it changes whole perspective.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So if you're someone scratch your head like, what are they talking about? If you're young in the game or new to the game, that's what we would ask you to do. Pay attention to what Jalen Brown does on defense when the ball's not in his hands. What is he doing? How is he moving? How is he affecting the game? Right? And a lot of times that's the difference between a one offensive player to a two-sided player like Brown, and the difference between being a superstar, a star, and being a superstar.
Right.
And sometimes guys don't get their flowers until later, you know?
Right. And I spoke to quick. He went to the University of California, Berkeley. So still
Hey,
a great school.
That's California, I believe.
Yeah.
So, Wild Dog, I'll ask you this. That just before you jumped on, I was saying Dallas, obviously, for Luka to mean a lot. He'd be the youngest player to win the earliest championship other than Magic. But if Dallas wins, Kyrie, much like I was explaining earlier when Shaq and Kobe won rings apart, Kyrie without LeBron winning a chip, don't you think that helps Kyrie's legacy?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's already a legend in his own right, but it's really nice. It's really meaningful. What we call being certified. You're a champion. You're a legend. From the South, we call it being certified, a bona fide. You know what I mean?
Bona fide. Yeah.
Right. Like, you a governor, but you only serve one term. We got governors that don't serve 4, 5, 6, terms. So if you ain't a 2-term governor, it's like, yeah, you just kept the seat warm for the real governor. If that makes sense. Is that a good analogy? So him winning, without LeBron, that would really, really solidify, boost up his personal legacy. That's a huge paragraph in his Hall of Fame speech.
So you're saying, and just to reinstate what you just stated, well, I guess not reinstate, but to reconfirm what you stated, you think Boston will benefit more so from winning the championship than Dallas, right?
Yes, sir. No doubt in my mind.
And my opinion, I think Dallas, as well as Boogie Bob,
Right here, baby. Champion.
I think Dallas will benefit more so because, one, it's going to bring more clarification that Luka is the Don, and two, we need another championship to make this official that we are actually in one of those categories where we just didn't just win one, we won two, and three. If we win it this year, it's prone for us to try to run it back. So we're going to sign the players we need to sign, and maybe get some players we never had. So I think it's more beneficial for Dallas to win it this year.
I feel
Makes us bona fide. A 2-time winner is always better than a lot of one-time winners.
Yes.
You know, you see what this is?
It's upside down.
See what this is? Finals, baby. Got to bring it.
So
Got to bring it.
I feel
We
y'all.
stand, we're
There's clear,
standing on business.
you know, there's clear benefits, but I guess in the end I looked at the negative instead of the positive. There's positive for winning, period, right? But in the negative, there's more negative. You know what I'm saying? If it
Well,
comes to the
I'm
stuff
going to fire some
that
shots at you here, Wild Dog. I've been saving these bullets. No respecting 76er fan ever roots for the Celtics.
I'm not. Who's talking about rooting for them? You taking it too far. I'm just being as unbiased and clear and clarifying as best I can. They need a win. So when they lose, it's 3 times as bad them losing, and I'll be sure to rub it in.
Yeah. I'll just tell all the Boston fans listening, y'all got enough championships between Tom Brady and everybody else. Y'all can put those cigars away and forget about it.
Yeah.
Y'all just stay tied with LA Lakers for all I care.
You know,
Let it be
Mavs
known.
win, it's going to be the bomb. Mavs lose, it's like, shoot, we just getting started. That's the difference, right?
Yeah.
It's like Luka's arrived. Luka's already been in the MVP conversation. You know, it would help, you know, get him over the hump with that. But like I said before, with Luka beating the Clippers, his nemesis, I feel like he's capable of anything. There's nothing that he can't accomplish now that he's gotten over the hump with the Clippers. And that's even with them adding on more future Hall of Famers. 4 future Hall of Famers are back home because of Luka. He beat the Clippers. He's capable of anything. So I just feel like Luka is young. He's already solidified his legend. He's just getting started.
So the only problem I would say
his window is wide open. Brown and Tatum, their window's not so open like it is for Luka. And that's just being real.
I was going to say the only problem I would have is that Dallas, the fact of the matter is that they really need to win, because if they don't, then it's going to be a lot of changes. And I think it's going to benefit Dallas more economically wise too, because they're going to bring a lot more to the city in general. And it's going to solidify Luka's legacy. And I think they still have a great shot at it, but it's just going to be a little bit tougher. And I also wanted to make the point that going through the Western Conference is way harder than going through the Eastern Conference. So it's a little bit different playing against Boston, and they're playing in this magnificent defensive, offensive performance that they're having right now. It's been amazing, but it doesn't give us to pause when it comes to Dallas still being able to win this series.
Yeah, but we've been here before.
Well,
Dirk lost his first
finals.
Here's a stat
to consider.
And had to come back, you know.
Coach Kidd is 1-6 in game 1 of the series.
Yeah. But
1-6.
they're gonna, in my opinion, they're gonna lose game 2, but it's gonna be a close game because they have to figure out that 5-out offense, and they had to see it first, see what it looks like, and then come back and adjust. And he's done that very well. But they're gonna lose game 2. That's just my opinion. I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah, because even me, Coach Mike, I'm like, there's too many unknowns with him. Is the rest for the team going to be too much? Because it's a long day. They were waiting. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You know, they swept in the Eastern Conference Final, so they were waiting for quite a bit of time. So that was like kind of, I know, how is that going to affect them sitting so long? Now we have our answer. KP, he had a leg injury. He's been out since March something. So it's like, yeah, nobody comes back in shape, right?
April 29th.
But
April 29th was his last game.
But in my opinion, I think he was actually ready in the Eastern Conference Finals, but they didn't need him because he looked in shape and no rust whatsoever. You know what I'm saying? Last night. And I'm like, they played possum because you know what I'm saying? They had to be playing possum because he looked in shape and he looked like he had absolutely no rust. And I'm like, oh wow, we got our answer. Kid has won as a player, he's won as a coach. We know he was a floor general when he's a player, and we know he's got a very high IQ, and he's able to communicate well with Luka and players' his relationship. So there are going to be adjustments, and just the guys have to execute. And with one game behind them, all our guys who are young and green, who haven't been here before, game one did a lot for them, right? So the further we go in the series, right, that's going to be a boost for our young players and guys who don't quite have the finals experience, because with every game, they're going to get more comfortable, more better to execute the adjustment. So if Boston's gonna, get it done, they better be about their business. If they mess around and let us win a game, it's gonna be a fight.
Yeah,
So
because that's still
one of the things that coach addressed in the locker room that they've showed was that they won the fourth quarter. But if you actually look at the stats, take away the first quarter,
Yeah.
1 point separated Boston and the Mavericks. So they were starting to figure it out by the end of the game. They had 60 some odd points at half. It only finished with 109. So Dallas held them to 40 some points, under 50 points for the second half. So the second, third, and fourth quarter, they were separated by 1 point. And that's what the Mavs having their worst game. And the Celtics having their best game. The Mavs shot terrible from 3-point range. And Boston early on couldn't miss. So I don't think that's going to happen again. As far as KP and the rust, I was saying this earlier.
No.
You hit it early and then you did. That's all muscle memory. He's always been a good shooter. I think that's his best game of the series.
And again, I still think they lose game 2, but that is to be seen, though. So I'm just saying Dallas is going to be tough. It's going to be tough to win game 2. So, and speaking of cities, Boston versus Dallas, who do you guys feel is the better sports city? I already know my thoughts, but I want to hear you first, Bob. What are your thoughts? Who you think is the better sports city?
I wrote a few things down. We like to talk all things maths, but it depends on what the measurement, what do you use as a measurement as to what's a better sports city. If you're using the number of championships, clearly Boston.
Yeah.
I mean, they have 7 Super Bowl rings during the Tom Brady era?
6.
If you're talking about historical, Boston has to be there. The little known fact, they were the original 6. There were 6 hockey teams.
Yeah.
So there was Chicago, Boston, Montreal, Toronto. And so Boston was one of the original 6 hockey teams.
Mm-hmm.
That's not even talking about the Celtics. And then you got the Red Sox, the only team in any sport to ever come back from a 0-3 deficit and win a series. They went on to win a World Series and a couple more after that. So if you talk about historical, there's a church with a grave site in Boston. Forget the Boston Tea Party and Paul Revere, but this church had people that went there and only their relatives can. It was 1,400. So when you talk about Dallas, is a pretty young city, but Boston is like all kinds of historical.
Part of the 13 colonies.
Yes.
And if you talk about fans, both fans are fanatical. I mean, if you ever met gone to an Eagles Cowboys game, boy, there's sure to be a fight break out somewhere because both are very rabid. And so, I mean, you heard the Boston crowd give Kyrie the business last night. When it comes back for game 3 and game 4, I wonder how much the Dallas fans will give KP the business. So both fans are fanatical. But here's the kicker. If you use recency bias, like current season and what have you, that's where Dallas has the edge. Dallas is seen as a more modern city, more hip, more cool. Okay, we don't have a coast like Miami or LA, but they're talking about having a stock exchange, Texas Stock Exchange here in Dallas. So the other than Atlanta, the second biggest airport. So when you talk about modern day, young, hip, younger crowd, new, Dallas has it all. And as Wild Dog is representing the Wings, we got the Wings. I don't think Boston has a WNBA team, do they, Wild Dog?
No, no. At least not
That-
anymore. You know.
That's my take on it.
So, Wild Dog, your thoughts, man? You think who's the better sports city, Dallas or Boston?
Well, I mean, my first thought is like, okay, better sports city, and I'm thinking, okay, you know, the cliche term city of champions, right? So I just laid it out because the Celtics are, you know, we're talking basketball first, so the Celtics are a historic franchise, you know. We've talked about historic franchises before, you know, and the biggest vote getter among us was the Boston Celtics. So in NBA Finals, they're 17-5. So that's 23 appearances. Me, I take a different take. You ain't got to win. Making it to the show is important. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes you got to make it there 2 or 3 times just to get one win because it's not that easy. But them having that many appearances, only second to the Lakers. And of course, you got the Red Sox, right? Who are 9-4 in the World Series. If they hadn't traded away Babe Ruth, who knows what that number would be like, right? Right? So even when you talk about Babe Ruth or the Yankees, the Red Sox still come up when you're not even talking about, you know, their town, you know, and the Patriots. So even before Tom Brady, you know, they had really good teams, even with Drew Bledsoe, that made it to the Super Bowl. So they're 6-5. That's 11 trips, you know, to the Super Bowl for them. And then the historic original Bruins hockey, you know, NHL hockey team, the Bruins, they are 6-14. 6-14. So when it comes to City of Champions, all these appearances, all this dominance leading up to these appearances, building up to it and falling off, Boston's really been a great City of Champions, right? But now, like Boogie was referring to, you know, the fan base is really trippy. They'll love you and pay for your meal and buy you a drink, or they'll be throwing bottles at you. You know, you know what I'm saying? You know, so when it comes to Dallas, I mean, we have our pro teams, our semi-pros, any high school football or basketball game, it's packed. Okay. And even in the losing years of the Mavericks, losing years of the Cowboys, losing years of the Rangers, guess what? it's the stadiums, arenas are full of people, record sellouts, right? Even before anybody won anything. And then you bring in the Stars. Yeah, the Stars had to lose the Stanley Cup to win one. You know what I'm saying? Back-to-back appearances, 1 and 2. And then in recent years, they lost to the Lightning, but the build-up to get to the Stanley Cup, and even with the fall-off, still the dominance, you know, in the Western Conference. And then, but the fans, just fanatical, win, losing, any year, any decade, North Texas shows up for their teams on every single level. Right? You go to Boston and they have an off year. When you see empty seats at a Dallas game, it's because they in traffic. They running late. You know what I'm saying? You see empty seats in Boston, it's because their own fan base is turned on them or mad at them, and nobody's interested. So again, depending on what metric you want to take, you know, Dallas is the overwhelming winner. And if you say, oh, it's all about chips, okay, well then we got to give it to the historic colonial city of Boston.
Yep.
You know? But hey, if I had a choice, I'm not leaving Texas. I'm not leaving Dallas. You know what I'm saying? My son can go to MIT to go to Boston, to go to school, but I bet you what, he's gonna have his Cowboys, Mavericks, Stars, you know what I'm saying? You know, he is going to represent, you know what I'm saying? No doubt. And there's an argument and discussion to be had. And it's not like in some cases there's no discussion, there's no argument, you know what I'm saying? You know, like
I'll throw in a tiebreaker here. The Dallas Cowboys are the most richest franchise in all of sports. Not even the Yankees are worth as much as the Cowboys.
Still America's team.
And if you had to sell the Celtics, we already know what the Mavericks are worth because Mark Cuban and some minority owners sold 73% for $4 billion.
Yeah, but
I
even
don't think the
thought,
Celtics would ever sell, but
yeah,
I would dare say that the Mavericks are probably worth as much as the Celtics. So
yeah.
when you're talking about what is it worth to a city and what is the franchise worth, money is usually the deciding factor.
When the fans show up, the sponsors show up. So the sponsorship, especially for the Mavericks, on paper, the Mavericks are more valuable.
Yeah.
And
So as far as city goes,
I'll give you another tiebreaker. This goes to you, Big Mike.
I'm
This
here.
goes to you, Big Mike, co-host. Whose jersey would you rather have, Luka or Tatum? And who has more sales?
Luka jersey right now has more sales.
Yeah.
So I already have a Luka jersey, but I haven't worn it yet. But I would prefer a Luka jersey. But if I had to choose out of all the jerseys in the world, it would have to be Michigan Chris Webber.
Yes, sir. But anybody I know who's collected a Tatum jersey, also had a Luka jersey first, unless you're a Boston Celtics fan. It's just facts. And people say, well, how can you have the two best players but not the best team? I'm like, watch the game. Luka and Kyrie, and then you have Brown, Tatum, Holiday. I mean, it is what it is, So
yeah, you missed some interesting conversation we had earlier, but I get it. We'll probably chop it up a little bit more. We may have to move it to about 7 to get you on, but then if we move it to 7, then we only can do 30 minutes. So if y'all down with that, I'm good with it as well.
Well, you the producer, see what the views do, but it's like I'm doing the best I can,
Oh no, I want to get you on. That's what I'm saying. We can do a 30-minute podcast and call it a day. It's always good.
If it was ideal, I'd be able to pick up my son whenever I want it, but that's not the reality.
Oh no, that's what I'm saying. We don't mind because you are a wild dog, man. We want you on. Don't tell myself. So I ain't tripping though. We can do what we got to do, man, to make it happen. So it's all about Swish for real, man. So we as a collective, we all making it happen, man. So it's been today, man. I appreciate y'all coming on. It's been a great show. It's been kind of fast. We went through the topics pretty quick, man. And we had a lot of great topics, man. I still think going back to what we talked about earlier, Dallas versus Boston. Dallas should win the series. It may take 6 games, but it's going to be a tough call. And I just want to get your quick thoughts on that one, Wild Dog.
With the Mavericks win, with my other, people I talk, barbershop talk with, it's kind of like a Maverick win is look like they would have to do it in 6 because nobody likes going to a game 7 against Boston in Boston trying to close them out.
Mm-hmm.
So the consensus with me and a lot of with the barbershop talk is Mavs in 6, right? And then on the Boston side, it's like, oh, they had better go ahead and sweep. Don't let Luke and Kyrie get a taste of a win. That changes everything. So it's like Boston needs to sweep like they did in the Eastern Conference Finals, or they risk having to go to a game 7 to take it.
Yeah, because I think when they played Boston, rather, when they played against Philly could have actually, not Philly, I'm sorry. When they played against Indiana, they played against Indiana, they really lucked out because Indiana should have won that first game. If they would have won that first game, we would probably been thinking about 7-game series right about now. And then Indiana lost Halliburton, and that was a big loss for them. So if that wouldn't have happened, I don't think we'd be talking about Boston winning in the amount of time that they won. They would probably been at 7 games. They may still won the series, but I still think it would have took it to 7 games
because they greatly benefited from opponent injuries.
Yeah,
this whole
A lot of
postseason.
all the way
Yes.
through, and
all
people.
the way through. Yes.
And I know Kevin Garnett was tripping about people saying that Boston had an easy road. I get what he's saying though. It's not an easy road to
Not
get
easy,
anywhere.
but
Yeah, but you still got to play the games. But you playing the games with less talent. You know, you're not no Jimmy Butler, and there's a lot of things they didn't have. You know what I mean? There's Halliburton was hurt. So come on, man. It was a little bit easier.
It's like the ball can bounce, but we know when you doing things a certain way and you're going, the ball can more bounce your way, to your side, giving you an edge. So that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about some easy road, but injuries for your opponent is a benefit to you, you know what I'm saying? Not to your opponent. So that's clear cut and dry facts. So I wouldn't say easy road, but definitely a beneficial, you know what I'm saying, for them to steamroll and have this dominance and be so healthy, you know what I'm saying, so healthy and rested going into the NBA Finals. That's a huge benefit.
And Bob, you think they can Dallas take it in 6, or you think Boston got this locked down?
I'll stick with my original prediction in 6.
Yeah.
So we put a crack in that second half. We stayed with Boston. And actually, second, third, and fourth quarter. I'll say it again. 1 point. We put a crack in that dam. Once you break through that dam, water comes flowing through. So, like Wild Dog was saying, Mavs get just a little inkling of that. Katie bar the door. It's gonna that dam, that water's gonna flow all over. If they upset them tomorrow night, bring it back 1-1 to Dallas for next Wednesday. I guess it's Sunday. But if they bring it back to Dallas next Wednesday and Friday, woo-wee. I tell you what, that's what Chris Arnold say. Here we go, woo-wee. That crowd will be crazy. I'm telling you, that crowd will be crazy. And we'll find out. It's going to be an interesting week. Back to what I was saying earlier about conspiracy theories. There's not been many sweeps. There's not been many 5-game series. The NBA wants to go 7 games, or at least 6.
Yeah,
that's money. That's
Mavs
money.
Mavs in 6 or Celtics in 7. That's the consensus from my camp.
Adam Silver was talking. They did an interview with him after the game and the state of the NBA, and they're negotiating TV rights. The last contract was $24 billion over I think 8 or 9 years. The new one, 11 years, $70 billion.
With the B, 70 billion.
Billion with a B.
And what are your thoughts? And we can probably talk about this next episode, but the loss to TNT, man, it's gonna be crazy.
Oh man, for me, it's too personal. It's heartbreaking. You know, Kenny the Jet Smith is one of my son's godfathers, so you know. But I know he's gonna land on his feet. It's just what is that gonna look like, and I'm just uncomfortable with what that's gonna look like because I'm so used to it's so
that was
part of my life.
Article.
Yeah,
that was part of the article is they're trying to negotiate with Turner and Amazon and streaming services and cable services, and so for the NBA, they've already come out and said that inside the NBA is a brand, and we know the NBA is the best at marketing a brand. So don't be surprised, even if TNT doesn't own it, if they sell the rights to it. But don't be surprised if the NBA doesn't have like a separate contract just to have that become part of the NBA fold.
Yeah, because they did a lot of good stuff as far as commentation. So tonight, man, Wild Dog, thank you for hopping on when you could, man. I appreciate your commentary. We had a great show tonight, man. The topic was mainly Boston, Dallas, man. We had a lot to talk about. Bob, you know, you bring it every time we talk. The podcast is nothing without you guys, man. So I appreciate y'all. So we're going to start with you, Wild Dog. Tell the people where they can find you, your social media handles, and all that good stuff.
Hey, you know, I'm doing even more commentary, more appearances like this, and even to the point where I've even got content on my channel on YouTube.
He does.
So, look,
Subscribe.
The only place you can really find me is YouTube at Wild Dog 357. That's Wild DOGG 357 on YouTube. You know, come find me, come link up with me, do live chats with me, come on panels with me. Shoot, you might even find yourself as a guest invitee here on Swish for Real. Just come mess with us on YouTube. That's all you got to do.
Thanks,
leave a comment, like, subscribe, leave a comment.
Yeah, again, guys, he has some really good energy, so you'll love it. I know he's going to bring more and more and more. Subscribe to the channel. He already gave you the handle. So, Boogie Bob, where can the people find you at, man? Give me your social media handles.
You can find me at Swish for Real. Subscribe at Swish for Real. Subscribe. Wild Dog OG 357.
Right down there. That guy right here.
That guy right down there. And me, I'm on YouTube. Check it out. I got some shorts at Boogie Bob on YouTube. Subscribe. Subscribe. Subscribe.
And he ain't lying, dog. He got some really good shorts out there, man. So y'all check Boogie Bob out. He's my co-host. He's always here. Wild Dog is always a co-host when he can hop on, man. We appreciate the love and kindness y'all show to the audience, man. We're building. We're going to keep going. It's been a great show, guys. You guys, I am out. Swish for Reals in the building. Guys, take care. Have a great weekend, okay? Peace.